Let's go. He's not ready. Are you ready? Senate will come to order. Secretary will call the roll.
Baer, Bayer, Bach, Brackett, Buckner-Webb, Cameron, Davis, Durst, Fulcher, Getty, Guthrie, Hagedorn, Hyder, Hill,
Here.
Johnson, Keogh, Lacey, Lakey, Lodge, Martin, McKenzie, Mortimer, Nonini, Nuxel, Patrick, Pierce, Rice, Schmidt, Sidaway, Stennett, Thane, Tippett, Fick, Work, Winder, Baer, Bayer, Brackett, Cameron, Davis, Fulcher, Getty, Lodge, Nonini, Nuxel, Sidaway, Stennett, Work.
Senator Davis and Senator Lodge will be recognized as President. Roll call. Senator Nonini will be recognized as President. Roll call, as will Senator Bayer and Senator Sidaway. Roll call shows 31 present, 4 absent or excused. Senator Work has requested and received an excused absence for this legislative day. Quorum being present, Senate is in order. Senate will advance to the second order of business, prayer and pledge of allegiance. Our prayer will be offered this morning by our Senate chaplain, Pastor James Wibberding. We invite our friends in the gallery to stand and join with us in prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, I am grateful for the Senate, for their leadership, for the Senate staff, all of whom invest so much of themselves in building a positive future for our state. It seems that their work comes as a sequence of storms. Yesterday's topic of discussion might be described as a storm. And so I ask that you will draw close to each senator and each staff member as they gather their strength and courage for the next one. Bless them today, I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. We'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning by our Senate page, Kyle Hudenpyle.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Senate will advance the third order of business, reading and correction of the journal. Before advancing, however, Senator Getty will be recognized as President of this order of business, as will Senator Brackett and Senator Stennett. Senate will advance the third order of business. Senate is in the third order of business.
February 22, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that the Senate Journal of the proceedings of February 21, 2013 was read and approved as corrected. Lodge, Chairman.
Without objection, the journal will be filed in the office of the Secretary. Senator Winder.
Personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick roadmap. When we get to the 10th order of business this morning, it's our intent to ask for a unanimous consent request that Senate Concurrent Resolution 112 and Senate Joint Memorial 101 be held for one legislative day. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. We do intend to do the other two concurrent resolutions in the 10th order. We also have a gubernatorial appointment to do. We'll then move on to the 13th order of business and get through as many of those as we can today. And with that, Mr. President, if there's no further business in the third order of business, I'd ask unanimous consent the Senate advance to the sixth order of business.
Hearing no objection, the Senate will advance the sixth order of business, reports of standing committees.
February 22, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that Senate Bill 1113, 1114, 1115, and Senate Bill 1116 have been correctly printed. Lodge Chairman.
Senate Bill 1113 will be referred to the Finance Committee, and Senate Bills 1114, 1115, and 1116 will be referred to the Health and Welfare Committee.
February 21, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that Senate Bill 1076 and Senate Bill 1077 have been correctly enrolled. Lodge Chairman.
Senate Bill 1026 and Senate 1076 and Senate Bill 1077 have been signed by the President, will be transmitted to the House of Representatives for the signature of the Speaker.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Senate go at ease. Subject to call of the Chair.
Objection, the Senate will be at ease. Senate will come to order. Before going at ease, the Senate was in the 6th order of business. Senator Winder. Senate will go at ease, subject to call of the chair. No.
Waiting for Jen.
You ready? Senate will come to order. Before going at ease a second time, the Senate was in the 6th order of business. Senator Winder?
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Senate advance to the 9th order of business.
Without objection, the Senate will advance the 9th order of business. Messages from the House.
February 21st, 2013. Mr. President, I transmit herewith House Bill 140, 141, 163, 109, and House Bill 107, which have passed the House. Alexander, Chief Clerk.
House Bills 140, 141, 163, 109, and 107 be referred to the 11th order of business for introduction.
February 21st, 2013. Mr. President, I return herewith Senate Bill 1010, which has passed the House. Alexander, Chief Clerk.
Senate Bill 1010 will be referred to the Judiciary and Rules Committee for enrolling.
February 21st, 2013. Mr. President, I transmit herewith enrolled House Bill 115, 40, 81, 84, 83, and House Bill 17 for the signature of the President. Alexander, Chief Clerk.
House Bills 115, 40, 81, 84, 83, and 17 have been signed by the President and will be returned to the House of Representatives.
There is no further business in the 9th order, Mr. President.
The Senate will advance the 10th order of business, motions and resolutions. The Senate now has before
Mr. President.
Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask unanimous consent that Senate Concurrent Resolution 112 and Senate Joint Memorial 101 be held until Monday, and they remain on the calendar.
Is there objection? Hearing none in so ordered, Senate Concurrent Resolution 112 and Senate Joint Memorial 101 will be held on the calendar until Monday. Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 114. Secretary will read the resolution.
In the Senate, Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 114 by Judiciary and Rules Committee. A concurrent resolution stating findings of the legislature and rejecting certain rules of the Idaho State Police.
Mr. President.
Senator Vick.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of SCR 114 be dispensed with, and the journal show it has been read at length.
Hearing no objection, is so ordered. Senator Vick.
Mr. President, I move the adoption of SCR 114.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
Heard the motion and the second. Senator Vick is recognized to open debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a resolution from the Judiciary and Rules Committee. We rejected 2 of the proposed rules in this section of law. One of them dealt with change, in addition to the definition of a law enforcement officer in regards to post-training, and the other one had to do with an officer undergoing an investigation while he was being certified. So that's what the 2 changes are, and with that, debate is open.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Vick is recognized to close debate.
Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 114 be adopted by the Senate? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and Senate Concurrent Resolution 114 has been adopted by the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and SCR 114 will be transmitted to the House of Representatives. The Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution number 115. Secretary will read the resolution.
In the Senate, Senate Concurrent Resolution number 115 by Judiciary and Rules Committee, a concurrent resolution stating findings of the legislature and rejecting a certain rule of the Idaho State Police.
Mr. President.
Senator Vick.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of SCR 115 be dispensed with, and the journal show it has been read at length.
Hearing no objection, is so ordered. Senator
Mr.
Vick.
President, I move the adoption of SCR 115.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion and the second, and Senator Vick is recognized to open debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This part of the rule had the same language dealing with the certification of a police and well, anybody, not just a police officer, anybody undergoing certification while under investigation. And again, the committee felt the language was unclear, and so we rejected the rule. With that, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Vick is recognized to close debate.
Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Concurrent Resolution number 115 be adopted by the Senate? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and SCR 115 has been adopted. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and SCR 115 will be transmitted to the House of Representatives. The Senate now has before it for final consideration the committee report dealing with the gubernatorial appointment of Wanda Chillingsworth Quinn to the Public Charter School Commission. Secretary will read the report.
February 19, 2013, the Education Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Wanda Chillingworth Quinn to the Public Charter School Commission, term to expire May 12, 2016. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Getty, Chairman.
Mr. President.
Senator Getty.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the committee report.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion and the second. Senator Getty is recognized to open debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wanda Quinn was appointed to the Charter Commission in 2012. This is her reappointment. She represents the position assigned for a member or former member of a local school board. She is a member of the Idaho Education Network Strategic Planning Committee. She's a trainer for Lighthouse Research, which is Idaho School Boards Association project. She's a past president of the Idaho School Boards Association, trustee at the Coeur d'Alene School District from 94 to 2006. She's a co-founder of the Excel Foundation that has brought millions of dollars to the Coeur d'Alene School District to teacher grants. She's been a member of PTOs, a number of those. She's president-elect of the Coeur d'Alene Rotary Club, and she sits on the board of directors of the Coeur d'Alene Chamber of Commerce. She's a very, very busy lady and very, very dedicated to education. She holds degrees in standard elementary teaching, K-8, administrator, K-12, and she is also an attorney. Even at that, I would recommend her appointment. With that, Mr. President, debate is open.
These are close to exceptional words, but debate being open, is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Getty is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall the Senate adopt the committee report? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the report has been adopted. The report will be filed in the office of the Secretary, and the Governor will be so notified.
Mr. President.
Senator Winder.
Unanimous consent, Senate go at ease. Subject to call the chair.
Without objection, the Senate will be at ease.
Mr. President, while the Senate's at ease, may I make an introduction?
Senator Pierce has the floor.
We have with us today up here the Purple Sage Elementary School. Would they stand up and be welcomed by the Senate? They're from over by Caldwell. They and their teachers and parents that came with them. Thank you.
Senator Lakey.
Mr. President, may I also make an introduction and express some thanks?
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also have with us Trooper Matt Sly. Matt is from my district, and I've also had the pleasure to go on a ride-along with Trooper Sly and watch him do the good work of keeping us all safe. We've appreciated the opportunity to have him here with us during this week and also watch over us as members of the Senate, so please join me in thanking him.
Senate will come to order. Before going at ease, the Senate was in the 10th order of business. Senator Winder.
No further business in the 10th order, Mr. President.
Senate will advance to the 11th order of business, introduction and first reading of bills.
Mr. President.
Senator Winder.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be read by number, author, and title only. The journal show they've been read at length.
Hearing no objection, it is so ordered.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 140 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to property taxation to provide that property on a reservation belonging to a federally recognized Indian tribe is exempt from property taxation. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 141 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to exemptions from property taxation to provide that wells drilled for the production of oil, gas, or hydrocarbon condensate are exempt from property taxation. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 163 by Education Committee, an act relating to education to clarify the number of days to sign and return a contract. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 109 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to the Board of Pharmacy to provide for experience for pharmacist members of the Board of Pharmacy. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 107 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to absentee voting to provide alternative procedures for absentee voting and early voting.
House Bills 140 and 141 will be referred to the Local Government and Taxation Committee. House Bill 163 will be referred to the Education Committee. House Bill 109 will be referred to the Health and Welfare Committee, and House Bill 107 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee.
There is no further business in the 11th order, Mr. President.
Senate will advance to the 12th order of business, second reading calendar.
Mr. President.
Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent bills on second reading calendar be read by number and author only, and the journal show they've been read at length.
Without objection, it is so ordered.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1058 by State Affairs Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 180 by Appropriations Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 82 by Education Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1057 by Education Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1091 by Education Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1063 by Health and Welfare Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 89 by Health and Welfare Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1072 as amended by Health and Welfare Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1062 as amended by Resources and Environment Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1048 as amended by Judiciary and Rules Committee.
Senate Bill 1058, House Bill 180, House Bill 82, Senate Bill 1057, Senate Bill 1091, Senate Bill 1063, House Bill 89, Senate Bill 1072 as amended, Senate Bill 1062 as amended, and Senate Bill 1048 as amended will be referred to the 13th order of business, third reading calendar.
There is no further business in the 12th order, Mr. President.
Senate will advance to the 13th order of business, third reading calendar. Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 1101. Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1101 by Finance Committee.
Mr. President.
Senator Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill 1101 be dispensed with, and the journal show it's been read at length a third time, section by section, and placed before the Senate for appropriate final consideration.
Hearing no objection, it is so ordered, and Senator Schmidt is recognized to open debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, this is a supplemental appropriation from the Idaho Department of Parks for fiscal year 2013. This funding is from dedicated funds for the amount of $330,000 for three purposes. last session, the legislature approved legislation that would offer Idahoans the opportunity to purchase a state parks passport, and I hope all of you have. It's very worthwhile. You can do this while registering your passenger vehicle. The passport began selling October 1st of 2012, and it allows vehicle entrance into all state parks for $10 per year. This bill, this appropriation bill, includes $120,000 to be used to inform the public about the availability of this new passport program through an extensive ongoing effort, including radio and television, production and distribution of promotional materials, public relations efforts, and social media. The initiative is aimed at turning Idahoans who rarely use their parks into frequent users. The effort is devoted to achieving the goal of selling 250,000 $10 passports annually. Second, the bill includes $60,000 to spend park entry and camping fees to implement key elements of the agency's strategic business and marketing efforts. Funding is included for specific use equipment, promotional materials necessary to increase awareness of park offerings, advertising, and park-specific enterprise efforts. The third section of the bill includes $150,000 additional spending authority to restock park inventory available for sale to park visitors. Boat fuel accounts for a large portion of these sales. Also, the department is achieving success by incorporating Idaho products into its retail sales locations. Fiscal year 2012 expenditures were $1.6 million from the dedicated Public Recreation Enterprise Fund. This appropriation allows the department to restock inventory before the coming park season starts. These are all dedicated funds. Mr. President, with that, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Schmidt is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, fellow senators. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1102 pass the Senate? Secretary will call the roll.
Baer. Baer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner-Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn.
Aye.
Hyder. Hill. Johnson. Keogh. Lacey. Lakey.
Aye.
Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nonini. Nuxel. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sidaway. Stennett. Thane. Tibbetts. Vick. Work. Winder. Bach. Davis. Durst. Hill.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Work.
Roll call shows 34 aye, 1 absent or excused. Majority having voted in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1101 has passed the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and Senate Bill 1101 will be transmitted to the House of Representatives. Senator Hyder.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent, Senate go at ease.
Without objection, the Senate will be at ease.
I'm feeling easy.
You're going to address that in the
Yes. It's really rare that their policy is that the officer is a victim, they're not doing the arrest. but there may be a circumstance where that happens for a road officer or a jailman. If a road officer, for example, they're out to domestic dispute.
He's not concerned about the road officer. He's only concerned about internal, where they have to be regulations.
And there may be there may be a circumstance where they need it, but it's not policy.
He's thinking in the smaller jails.
That's where you would generally run into it.
Senate will come to order. Before going to these, the Senate was in the 13th order of business. Senator Hyder?
Mr. President, is Senate Bill 1053 in this order of business?
Senate Bill 1053 is in the 13th order of business, yes.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that Senate Bill 1053 be returned to committee for looking at it again.
Do you want to explain, or is that it?
Mr. President, we would like to make sure that the fiscal note is correct on Senate Bill 1053.
Okay. You've heard the unanimous consent request. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered, and Senate Bill 1053 will be returned to the Health and Welfare Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 1102. Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1102 by Finance Committee, an act relating to the appropriation to the Department of Self-Governing Agencies for Regulatory Boards, to revise the appropriation to the regulatory boards for fiscal year 2013.
Senator Vick.
Mr. President, you must have ESP. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill 1102 be dispensed with, and that the journal show it has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, is so ordered, and Senator Vick is recognized to open debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. We were at ease so long that I almost fell asleep. Senate Bill 1102 reduces the fiscal year 2013 appropriation to the Bureau of Occupational Licenses in the amount of $1,125,000 from dedicated funds. The bill also transfers $125,000 from capital outlay to operating expenditures. Last session, the Bureau of Occupational Licenses received authority from the legislature to purchase a new license and regulatory system. The original appropriation for this project was $1,250,000. However, when the request for proposal was let, a vendor was selected that currently administers other self-governing agencies' licensing and regulatory systems. As a consequence, the vendor could apply the existing technology to the Bureau's needs rather than build a new system from scratch. The Bureau will have roughly $625,000 will save roughly $625,000 over the 10-year functional life of the system by selecting a vendor with existing technology. The Bureau will spend $155,000 per year for the maintenance contract rather than paying an upfront cost of $1,250,000 and the maintenance cost of $105,000, which is in their base budget. In addition to the Board of Accountancy, the vendor will provide services to the Bureau of Occupational Licenses, Board of Medicine, Board of Dentistry, Board of Pharmacy, and Board of Veterinary Medicine. The Bureau of Occupational Licenses provides administrative, investigative, and legal services to 28 professional licensing boards and commissions. With that, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Vick is recognized to close debate.
Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1102 pass the Senate?
Mr. President.
Senator Fulcher.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call vote used in the final passage of Senate Bill 1101 now be used in the final passage of Senate Bill 1102.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Roll call shows 34 aye, 0 nay, 1 absent or excused. Majority having voted in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1102 has passed the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and Senate Bill 1102 will be transmitted to the House of Representatives. The Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 1103. Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1103 by Finance Committee, an act appropriating additional monies to the State Tax Commission for fiscal year 2013 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President.
Senator Nuxall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill 1103 be dispensed with, and that the journal show it has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, is so ordered, and Senator Nuxall is recognized to open debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a fiscal year 2013 supplemental appropriation to the Idaho State Tax Commission for personnel costs in the amount of $200,000 from the general fund. This funding will be utilized to reduce the number of vacant positions the agency is forced to manage. At the beginning of fiscal year 2013, the Tax Commission had a general fund structural deficit of $1.8 million, or 8.1%, between the salaries for positions established in the state payroll system and its appropriation for personnel costs. By holding positions vacant for a period of time, the Commission is able to make up that deficit. However, with this supplemental appropriation, the Commission will be able to hire employees into vacant positions more quickly. This is split with $181,300 going to the Audit and Collections Program and $18,700 going to the Revenue Operations Program. The State Tax Commission has 4 budgeted programs: General Services, Audit and Collections, Revenue Operations, and Property Tax. Mr. President, the debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Senator Pierce.
Mr. President, to debate the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I hesitate to do this, but I think that we need to start the discussion maybe in this body and other places as well. Of the last period of time, I've stumbled onto, by accident as well as the constituents, a number of problems with the Tax Commission. And I had a good friend who had a run-in with him and the IRS both. He had some tax problems, and so he had to work with him, and he came back and told me, he said, "You ought to know this." He said, "Your tax commission is far worse to work with than the IRS." He said, "The IRS treated me like I was a human being," and he says, "Your tax commission was nothing but played rough with me." And I went to a former tax commissioner and asked the question, "Is this true?" And he said, "Absolutely." And he said, "The legislature, you've given them the power, and we continue to finance and allow them to have that." And I guess my only concern is with my no vote on this bill will be to send the message that we need to begin to change that image. We need to begin to take a different approach, and instead of being, I understand that surrounding states also know that about us. It's not just something that's locally with one auditor or something else, but that we have that image with the surrounding states. They know that's what we are. So with that, I guess I'm just voting to send a message. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Bach.
Yes, Mr. President. I have to concur with the good senator. I used to practice tax law, and given a choice between appearing before the IRS and appearing before the State Tax Commission, I'd pick the IRS anytime. I think the tendency toward rigidity and strong-arming techniques is far more predominant with our State Tax Commission than it is with the IRS, if you can believe that, but it's true. So I will join the good senator and likewise cast a no vote.
Senator Rice.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, my great-uncle was on the Utah Tax Commission for a number of years. He's deceased now, but this is a long-standing problem. He told me that the very worst tax commission to work with in the entire country was the Idaho Tax Commission. I've become aware of some of the same things that the good senator from 9 has become aware of. We need to change the image of the Tax Commission. That happens by change in practices. And they need to be more responsive, and we need to have this discussion, and we need to let them know that we're serious about the discussion. So I will be joining the senator from 9.
Is there further debate? Senator Stennett.
Mr. President, if the good senator from 7 would yield to a question.
Senator Nuxall, would you yield?
Yes, Mr. President, I will yield.
Senator Stennett from 26 to state your question.
Thank you. I'm just curious what the additional $200,000 is being asked for. I wasn't real clear about what the extra appropriations are for.
Senator Stennett or Senator Nuxall to respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, The additional funding is for positions within the Audit and Collections Program and the Revenue Operations Program to pay for for positions that they had to fill to manage their job. And apparently my understanding is that they purposely have a structural deficit so that they don't come back and return money at the end of the year. And so that's my understanding. 4 positions.
Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Nuxall is recognized to close debate on the bill.
The debate is closed, Mr. President.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1103 pass the Senate? Secretary will call the roll.
Baer. Baer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner-Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill.
No.
Johnson. Keogh. Lacey. Lakey. Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nonini. Nuxall. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sitaway. Stennett. Thane. Tippett. Vick. Work. Winder. Buckner-Webb. Getty. Hagedorn. Lakey. Nonini. Vick. Work.
Senator Nuxall, for what reason do you stand?
Mr. President, to change my vote.
Senator Nuxall will record as voting no.
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Durst, for what purpose do you stand?
Mr. President, to change my vote.
To
no.
Sorry, I can't keep track of them all. Thank you. Senator Durst will be recorded as voting no. Roll call shows 18 ayes, 16 nays, 1 absent or excused. A majority having voted in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1103 has passed the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and Senate Bill 1103 will be transmitted to the House of Representatives. Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 1104. Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1104 by Finance Committee, an act appropriating additional monies to the Department of Fish and Game for fiscal year 2013 and declaring an emergency. Be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Idaho, Section 1, in addition to the appropriation...
Mr. President.
Senator Bayer.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill 1104 be dispensed with and that the Journal show it has been read for the 3rd time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senator Bayer is recognized to open debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senators. This might be as exciting as the Tax Commission to some. This is a supplemental appropriation for the Department of Fish and Game for fiscal year 2013 in the amount of $8,205,700. Additional funding is provided for 6 department programs, which I'd like to go through. First, the bill provides $50,000 to be used by the department for roof replacement at the Boise headquarters building. Second, the appropriation provides $39,000 in federal funding for the enforcement program to assist federal agencies with removal of nuisance bears in the Panhandle, compliance patrols to monitor competition between guided and non-guided anglers on the South Fork of the Snake River, and monitoring for hunting closures in the Hot Tea area north of Mountain Home. Third, the supplemental provides $5,663,200 for fisheries projects, including screening of diversions, maintenance of fishing access sites, habitat improvement, and hatchery programs. Fourth, this bill includes $1,140,600 for wildlife projects, including funding to develop a state wetland monitoring program to implement conservation actions to prevent species from being listed under the Endangered Species Act, to implement wildlife habitat management activities as mitigation for the impacts of hydropower projects, to provide noxious weed control on department-managed properties, and to develop a publicly accessible web-based wildlife and wildlife habitat information system to assist in land use managers. Fifth, the supplemental includes $1,094,300 for the communications program for aquatic education and the Watchable Wildlife and Habitat Improvement Program in hunter education. The bill includes Pittman-Robertson funding for a new hunter education classroom in Coeur d'Alene. And sixth and last, the supplemental includes $218,600 in federal funding to conduct habitat surveys for the use of land management decisions. In summary, Mr. President, this supplemental appropriation provides $2,091,300 in dedicated funds and $6,114,400 in federal funds for a total of $8,205,700. Of the total, only $30,000 is appropriated from licenses and tags. And please note, Senators, that the FY13 supplemental justification for this is for some work that's going on now and for some seasonal work that will occur between now and July 1st. With that, Mr. President, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Senator Hagedorn.
Mr. President, would the gentleman from 21 yield?
Senator Bayer from 21, would you yield to the senator from 14?
I yield.
Senator from 14.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator from 21, was there any discussion about the federal funds, the Pittman-Robertson funds being used along with education, but also for shooting ranges anywhere in Idaho?
Senator from 21.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, good Senator from 20. I am not aware of any specific deliberations in regards to shooting ranges personally.
Thank you, good gentleman. To debate the bill.
Senator Hagedorn from District 14 is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Part of those funds that come back from the federal government are received through excise taxes.
Mr. President.
Senator Winder?
I ask the Senate go at ease, subject to call the chair.
Objection, the Senate will be at ease.
While we're at ease, I see someone upstairs that I've not had an opportunity to introduce yet. Please welcome my wife, Terry.
Senators, also, while we're at ease, I'd like to introduce some folks that are just coming into the gallery. My wife, Nancy, my daughter, Kimberly, her husband, Sean, and their children, Tabitha, Jerem, Logan, Hannah, Katie, and Maya. Senator, these kids drove all the way from Fairbanks, Alaska, not just to see you, but that was part of what was on the agenda. And these kids think it's really warm here in Boise. Would you help me welcome them to the Senate, please?
The Senate will come to order before going at ease. The Senate was in the 13th order of business and had under consideration Senate Bill 1104. Senator Hagedorn had been recognized for debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I understand this is a supplemental and my concerns are addressed in another budget, so I have no problem with this bill. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Bayer is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, good senators, and thank you for the moment to have the clarity. There are line items with that source for this supplemental, but not for that application, and that will be addressed in the FY14 appropriation. And I'd like to commend the department for the transparency in putting these items in such a line item formal format for us and for us to formally take under consideration. And with that, Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1104 pass the Senate?
Mr. President.
Senator Fulcher.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent. Roll call vote used for the final passage of Senate Bill 1101 now be used for the final passage of Senate Bill 1104.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Roll call shows 34 ayes, 0 nay, 1 absent or excused. A majority having voted in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1104 has passed the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and Senate Bill 1104 will be transmitted to the House of Representatives. The Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 1034. Secretary will read the bill.
Rules Committee, an act relating to county jails, relating to the governor's authority
Mr.
to
President.
Senator Lodge.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill 1034 be dispensed with, and the journal show it has been read for the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection is so ordered, and Senator Lodge is recognized to open debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good senators, when I came over, when I was honored to be elected by my constituents, a gentleman by the name of Ralph Smead said to me, for every bill you pass over there, you should repeal two. Well, I haven't had that opportunity, but I have had the opportunity to carry some repeals on the floor, and this is one of those, and this is kind of some of my favorite legislation. And the purpose of this bill is to repeal Idaho Code 20625, which is an obsolete statute that requires a sheriff and the commissioners to get written permission from the governor before moving a prisoner from one jail to another. The process is archaic and has no place in modern detention practices. The governor has no other oversight power as to the running of county jails. Sheriffs transfer inmates from jail to jail for many reasons. These include protection of informants, breaking up gangs, providing mental and medical treatment, protecting inmates from predators, population caps, and in cases where an inmate is sentenced to one jurisdiction while being prosecuted in another jurisdiction. There is no civil right of an inmate to choose what jail he is housed in. If an inmate feels he's being mistreated, he can bring a civil rights action or a habeas corpus action. And with that information, Mr. President, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Hearing Senator Bach.
Mr. President, I'm going to tepidly debate in favor of this bill. The bill, as I understand it, has not been ever used since Idaho became a state. So in that respect, it has absolutely been non-functional. This may leave a gap in who has authority to transport prisoners from one county jail to another, and that's something that should be looked at. I'm going to vote yes, and I urge you to do as well, but we probably should follow this up with a look-see to see if there's any gap that we need to fill. Thank you.
So further debate? Hearing none, Senator Lodge is recognized. Closed debate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, good Senator, for 16 for your comments. And with those comments, debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1034 pass the Senate?
Mr. President.
Senator Fulcher.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call vote used for the final passage of Senate Bill 1101 now be used for the final passage of Senate Bill 1034.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Roll call shows 34 ayes, 0 nay, 1 absent or excused. A majority having voted in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1034 has passed the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and Senate Bill 1034 will be transmitted to the House. Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 1035. Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1035 by Judiciary and Rules Committee, an act relating to county jails, to establish additional provisions.
Senator Lakey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill 1035 be dispensed with and the journal show it has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, is so ordered. Senator Lakey is recognized to open debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. Senators, this bill comes from our good county sheriffs with the support of the Fraternal Order of Police, or our city officers. I've also taken the opportunity to speak with my own county sheriff and prosecuting attorney on this matter. This bill provides that deputy sheriffs working in our county jails have the opportunity and the power to arrest for crimes committed in the jails if they have probable cause. Currently in Idaho, peace officers, brand inspectors, detention officers, there are various law enforcement officers that have arrest powers under specified circumstances. Typically, the main concern you're dealing with in an arrest is whether this individual is going to lose their liberty and go to jail. In this case, the inmates are in jail, so that issue is not on the table. The detention officers currently under the Statute 2603 have the authority to arrest escaped prisoners, arrest those suspected of probation violations, and arrest those under an arrest warrant from the court. This adds, again, the ability to arrest an inmate if probable cause exists that that person committed a crime in the jail. Additionally, typically those in jail are under direct observation of the deputies serving in the jail, or they're on video, unless they're in the shower of the jail, and I'm not going to go there. Typically, how it works, detention officers, I guess, also, Mr. President, may I read from the statute?
Senator may read.
Thank you. As the statute reads, and this part is not being changed, all detention officers employed by the county sheriff who receive peace officer certification from Idaho Peace Officer Standards and Training Council shall have the authority given by statute to peace officers of the state of Idaho. And then it goes forward to list those circumstances that I previously mentioned. So these detention officers are trained and post-certified as detention deputies. They're trained in the circumstances that exist in the jail. They're trained in arrest techniques. So here in this case, if the deputy has probable cause to make an arrest, they make that arrest, they provide the rights to the individual, then they prepare a probable cause affidavit which goes to the prosecuting attorney. Prosecuting attorney then reviews that to see if there is probable cause, and if there is, the charges proceed. They're in front of a magistrate the next day. They do also have the opportunity, if it's a misdemeanor, to issue a citation with a specific date to appear in court. So you have that additional backstop following the arrest of a review by the prosecutor and then an appearance before the magistrate. Currently, the way it works, the detention deputies have to call an outside officer, an officer off the street if they're in the larger cities, or a county road deputy to come in and make that arrest. That pulls those officers away from their duties out in the community. And frankly, those officers would rather be out there. They would rather have the detention deputy that's trained to operate within a jail, that's familiar with the circumstances and rules that apply, make that arrest. With that, Mr. President, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Senator Rice.
Mr. President, if the senator from 12 would yield to a question.
Senator Lakey from District 12, would you yield to a question from Senator Rice from District 10?
Mr. President, I would.
Senator Rice.
Wouldn't this also apply if someone were bringing like drugs into a jail, and attempting to pass those to an inmate? Would this apply so that the detention officer could arrest that individual?
Senator Lakey to respond.
Mr. President and Senator from 12, that is correct. Typically, you're dealing with inmates, but it would also apply to individuals coming into the jail committing crimes, and if the deputy has probable cause, they could make that arrest as well.
Is there further debate? Senator Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. President, for an inquiry also. Senator from 12.
Senator from 12, would you respond to another inquiry?
Mr. President, I will.
Senator Schmidt from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'd like to put a finer point on the question of the senator from 10. I have in my previous experience functioned as a physician in the county jail. And so under this statute, if I was in the county jail seeing a prisoner, I could be arrested without a warrant for probable cause. Is that correct?
Senator Lakey to respond.
Mr. President and Senator from 5, that would be correct. If you are in the jail and commit a crime and there is probable cause, you could be arrested.
Thank you.
So further debate. Senator Thane.
Thank you, Mr. President. An inquiry for the senator from 12.
Senator from 12, would you respond to an inquiry from the senator from District 8?
Mr. President, I appreciate the exercise, and I will.
Senator Thane, to state your question.
Thank you, Senator. I received an email from someone expressing some concern about, the detention officers and the prisoners being in close proximity for long periods of time, that this might cause some problems. I'm not real acquainted with the inside of jails myself, so, but I'm just wondering if that issue was brought up and if you could kind of relieve some of my concerns in that area.
Senator Lakey to respond.
Mr. President and Senator from 8, thank you for the question. I am, I guess, familiar with the insides of jails, not from criminal experience, but as a former county commissioner, we used to do inspections of our jails. And I did raise that issue specifically with our sheriff. It's correct that the detention deputies are in more regular contact with individuals and inmates in the jail. Their standard procedure is, I guess the concern that was raised, I think, is if that particular deputy is a victim of the crime, would that deputy be the arresting officer? The statute does not limit or prohibit a victim officer from making that arrest. But that's not the typical circumstance. Typically, the procedure is if the deputy is a victim, then another officer will make that arrest. There are circumstances on the road or in the jail where if that officer is the victim, they may have to make that arrest. If it's a peace officer out on the road and they're the one that is there and they're at a domestic dispute and somebody commits an act of violence on them, they may have to be that arresting officer. So there are circumstances where that may apply, but that's not typical. And the policy is that it's a different officer that would make that arrest.
Thank you, gentleman from 12.
Further debate.
Mr. President.
Senator Bach.
Yes, Mr. President, to debate against the bill.
Senator Bach has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm somewhat familiar with the inside of jails as well, but for the same reason, it's not because I was forced to be there. There are a couple of concerns I have about this bill, and so let me explain. In the normal situation where somebody is arrested out in the street, they're arrested to be taken into custody and taken to the appropriate facility. In that instance, because there could be the imminent possibility of the person fleeing the arresting officer, they at least can get them into the facility and take the next steps. In those situations, a warrant may not or is not required. And I'm not a criminal lawyer, so I'm not going to try to get to too many fine points here. Now, within the facility, within the county jail, the prisoner is already in custody. And the rationale for arresting somebody without a warrant disappears. You're not having to take this person to a facility because the person is already secured and presumably can be moved to his or her cell and be detained until a warrant can be obtained. My concern is that we're making an exception for the requirement of a warrant where it's not necessary. And it seems to me if there's anything I mean, essentially, among our rights under the U.S. Constitution, and for that matter, the Idaho Constitution, if there's one of the things we need to protect most stringently is the need for people to be arrested according to warrants. It's subject to abuse. You could have an officer within the detention facility who has developed a certain animus toward one of the prisoners and might find it convenient to manufacture a probable cause and then further that by an arrest under this change in the statute without a warrant. So I see this as unnecessary, for one thing, because of the fact that the prisoner is already in jail. But also, on top of that, I think we have a tendency in this last decade or two to start taking actions with warrantless searches, which are in some cases permissible. And I don't think we should go further down that road. I think we need to protect these civil liberties, and if the person who would be the arresting officer thinks that there's a case, then they should seek a warrant and get the arrest. I don't think we should dispense with warrants so easily as this bill would do. So I urge a vote against it.
So further debate. Senator Durst.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, with the senator from 12 yield to a couple questions.
Senator Lakey, would you respond to a question from the senator from 18?
Mr. President, I will.
Senator Durst, to state your question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good Senator, hypothetical situation for you if we've gotten relating to the idea of probable cause. If an inmate has been incarcerated and is found to be an undocumented worker and they were incarcerated for a different reason, but it's found out that they are in this country illegally and they have a visitor come that's presumably related to them, does that give the detention officer probable cause to arrest that visitor who may also be here illegally?
Senator Lakey to respond.
Mr. President, Senator from 18, clarification question, if I might.
Senator Lakey, Senator Durst, would you respond?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Lakey, to state your inquiry.
Senator from 18, so you're talking about the individual that's undocumented or illegal that is visiting the inmate in the jail.
Senator Durst to respond.
Mr. President, Mr. Senator from 12, what I'm saying is if the person that's currently incarcerated is known to be undocumented, has a visitor who's related, my question is if there's an assumption of probable cause that that person may also be undocumented, and if that would then give, under this new proposed statute, probable cause to arrest that other individual.
Senator Lakey to respond.
Mr. President and Senator from 18, let me try to answer the question, make sure I understand. If this individual comes into the jail and they are not in this country illegally, so to speak, to visit someone who is, unless that's a crime, which I'm not aware of, that person couldn't be arrested. There wouldn't be probable cause for that. Is that the scenario you're talking about, Senator?
Mr. President, for clarity, if the gentleman
Senator
yield
Durst.
further. Mr. President, if the gentleman would yield further.
Yes.
Senator Durst, state your question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry, Senator from 12. Let me explain a little more clearly. If we don't know the residency status of the visitor, all we know is that they're related to the person that's currently incarcerated that we know is illegally in the United States. Would it be within the detention officer's purview to have probable cause that that person may be here illegally as well, which would be violating a state law and a federal law and incarcerate that person, therefore?
Senator Lakey to respond.
Mr. President, Senator from 18, thank you for the clarity. In my mind as a prosecutor, no. Simply because an individual is visiting another individual who's not in this country legally, you would need more to establish probable cause. You'd have to have some grounds, some information that individual that's visiting the other individual is in fact in this country illegally.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, if you would yield further.
Senator Lakey, would you yield further?
Mr. President, certainly.
Senator Durst, to state your question.
Thank you, Mr. President. To redirect to a different line of questioning, I'm wondering if, Senator, if you would tell me, you mentioned in your opening debate that that detention officers have to go through post-training. Is that a provision required by Idaho Code, or is that a provision written in IDAPA rule? I couldn't find it in the statute here before me, and that's why I'm wondering where that's required. All I see is that the sheriff can give detention officers that ability to operate as a peace officer.
Senator Lakey to respond.
Mr. President, Senator from 18, it is in existing code. If you go up in Idaho Code section 20-603, Senator, it's in the preliminary language before the enumerated subsections, right after the initial title. Mr. President, if I might read again.
Senator Lakey has permission to read.
This is Idaho Code 20-603. All detention officers employed by the county sheriff who receive peace officer certification from the Idaho Peace Officer Standards and Training Council shall have the authority given by statute to peace officers of the state of Idaho.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So further debate. Senator Rice.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I have about 3 years' experience as a correctional officer in Nevada, and I worked out at the state prison in their access to court system, as well as my background in law. And let me point out a few things. My initial question was to make sure that we were clear that we weren't just talking about those that are already incarcerated in a county jail. There may be reasons to bring the charge. Yes, they're already in custody, so we're not talking about the same kind of arrest situation where you're taking someone who is already at liberty and putting them in custody if they're an inmate at the jail. This would be the process to get them in front of a judge for a hearing, for an arraignment, and proceed from there. The other situation is also very significant, and I think goes to some of the questions I think that are going around. If you have things do happen at jails. You get the smuggling of drugs into the jail by visitors. You get a number of other things. And that's a situation where you still have your normal reasons for detaining someone who actually is free to go if they're not arrested. And so this would allow, if there's probable cause for the arrest of someone who is committing a crime in the jail facility, who is not an inmate, they also would be subject to arrest under this clause. There is a substantial difference between what used to happen with training in corrections and what happens now, including jailed officers. Years ago, people didn't go through the post academy before working in corrections or even in jails. Now we do. We have some substantial training. It doesn't include a lot of the street training, the road training that the officers get, but it is a very enhanced level of training dealing with issues that exist in our jail facilities or our prisons. And so this doesn't, in my mind, create some concerns with violating people's civil rights or violating the Constitution as far as these arrests. But it is something that should be taken seriously. And I see the intent. It appears that we are freeing up street officers to work the streets, and we're enhancing the sheriff's ability to take care of the situations in the jails with the personnel at the jail. And those personnel actually are trained more for the kinds of things that occur in detention facilities. And so they're more likely to see what's going on. They're more likely to understand what's happening, both with inmates and with visitors and others who are working within that same facility. So I hope that's helpful.
So further debate. Hearing none, Senator Lakey is recognized. Close debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. Just to address some of the concerns that this seems to be kind of an inroad on or a weakening of the requirement for a warrant to arrest. Senators, there are a number of circumstances where an arrest based on probable cause or reasonable cause is appropriate. Mr. President, may I read from Idaho Code Section 19-603?
Having identified the source, Senator may read.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the code section, Senators, that deals with peace officers or road officers specifically. Those peace officers may make an arrest in obedience to a warrant, or may, without a warrant, arrest a person for a public offense committed or attempted in his presence, when a person has committed a felony, although not in his presence, when a felony has in fact been committed and he has reasonable cause for believing the person arrested to have committed it, on a charge made upon reasonable cause of the commission of a felony by the party arrested, at night when there is reasonable cause to believe he has committed a felony, and then when upon immediate response to a report of a commission of a crime, there is probable cause to believe the person has committed either an assault, a battery, a domestic assault or battery, first-degree stalking, second-degree stalking, violation of a protection order, violation of a no-contact order. So, Senators, there are a number of circumstances where an arrest is appropriate. In this case, that authority to arrest based on probable cause is appropriate. You have a jail situation where, again, you have individuals, I should say deputies, that are trained to deal with circumstances in the jail, and you have a video backup system which is not available all of the time in the circumstances with the officers in the field. So with that, Mr. President, I would close debate.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1035 pass the Senate? Secretary will call the roll.
Baer. Baer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner-Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill. Johnson. Lacey. Lakey. Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nonini. Nuxel. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sidaway. Stennett. Thane. Tippett. Fick. Winder. Bayer. Durst. Fulcher. Hill. Nonini. Pierce. Schmidt. There is also a pair vote, Senator Keogh voting aye, Senator Work voting nay.
Roll call shows 21 aye, 14 nay. Majority having voted in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1035 has passed the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and Senate Bill 1035 will be transmitted to the House of Representatives. Senate now has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 1074. Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1074 by State Affairs Committee, an act relating to a license to retail liquor.
Mr. President.
Senator Lodge.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good Senators, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of Senate Bill 1074 be dispensed with, and the Journal show it has been read for the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection is so ordered, and Senator Lodge is recognized to open debate on the bill.
Thank you, good President. Senators, Senate Bill 1074 is brought to us by the Caldwell Night Rodeo, and I've had placed on your desk a letter from the President, Jim Bauer. I have to say that I need to state Rule 39H because in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, I was a member of the Caldwell Night Rodeo Board. This legislation, if you turn to page 2, you will see that on line 44, we have changed the number 40 acres, contiguous acres, to 25, and we've taken out no part of which equestrian facility or the premises thereon is situated within the incorporated limits of any city. And the reason we did that is to have the Caldwell Night Rodeo, one of the top 5 rodeos, outdoor rodeos in the nation, out of 580 professionally sanctioned rodeos, so that they will be able to have an event liquor license. The Caldwell Night Rodeo is a 6-day event. Tuesday and Wednesday of those days are family nights, and no hard liquor is served. The rodeo gives away thousands of tickets to kids so that they have the opportunity to see a rodeo, professional rodeo, on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. This license is for 3 nights, the last 3 nights of the rodeo. And some of the reasons why this needs to be changed is the rodeo has been operating under a catering permit that a restaurant that serves the field house, which is right next door, they've been operating under that permit. Well, it's illegal, they found out this last summer, for you to have one catering permit in 2 different places. And so they checked into getting a liquor license. There are liquor licenses available in Caldwell for around $1,000. The problem is that you have to be open 6 days a week and so many hours a day in order to qualify for that liquor license. They only need 3 days out of the year for this event. And so that is why we're asking for the change. The Caldwell Night Rodeo Grounds is within a city limits. When this bill was originally written, this part, it was for the Lewiston Roundup, which was outside the city limits. 40 acres included the parking lots. With this bringing it down to 25 acres, we are not including the parking lots that are used for the Caldwell Night Rodeo, just the area around where the rodeo stock and the rodeo grounds are located. There's one place where they sell liquor, an enclosed area. There's food booths, which are supported by and operated by the different organizations in the community. The money that will be raised through the sponsorship helps so many community projects. Over $100,000 a year is given back to the community. And just last week, the Caldwell Night Rodeo Board gave another $38,000 to the breast cancer awareness program. And most of us have been affected by someone who's had breast cancer. This has become a big issue for rodeo throughout the professional rodeo throughout the United States. And on Thursday night, the cowboys are tough enough to wear pink and even tough enough to have pink ropes. And the money that they earn that night, that they win in winnings, they donate back to the breast cancer awareness. This is really big for our community. And as I said, the Lewiston Roundup is the only other professionally sanctioned rodeo in Idaho that has seating for at least 6,000. And my good seatmate told me they have seating for 7,000, and that they have 3 days of a professionally sanctioned rodeo. And they operate under this exempt license that the Caldwell Night Rodeo Board is asking. I have letters of support from the mayor, the city chief of police, the former Sheriff Chris Smith, and our new Sheriff Karen Donahue, that Karen Donahue and Chris Smith have both been rodeo board members, and they understand the programs that we have here. There's no permanent alcohol signage in the Caldwell Night Rodeo grounds. And as I stated, no hard liquor sales on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. It's no change in really what they've been doing. They just thought they were doing it legally, and they found out that it isn't legal. The alcohol sales are vital to the budget because they help support the purses that pay to attract the top cowboys and the donations that go back to the community. If the restaurant that they had, which we found out they can't use, but if they used a catering permit, then they would be purchasing that catering permit, and if that restaurant went out of business, they would have to seek out another catering permit, which would take money away from the purses that they give back in the community funds. And as I stated before, a regular liquor license is not an option, even though it would only be $1,000, because they're not open 6 days a week, many hours a day. This bill was originally written in 1986 for the Lewiston Roundup, and now the Caldwell Night Rodeo Board is asking that you give them the opportunity to continue to do the community projects that they've been doing and get the sponsorships that they need in order to attract the top cowboys and continue to be one of the top 5 rodeos, outdoor rodeos in the nation. And remember, we invite you all to come, and I'll even buy your tickets if you'll come to the rodeo, 3rd week in August, and it is the rodeo where the cowboys are the stars. And with that explanation, Mr. President, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Senator Davis.
Just briefly, I have never been to the Caldwell Rodeo. I am confident that what the good senator has said is absolutely true, that it's a wonderful rodeo, it's a wonderful community event, and it's a good cause, and it in turn supports other wonderful causes. And I want to support those causes, but I'm not being asked to vote today on those causes. I'm being asked to vote on the language of the bill. And for me, the language of the bill is problematic. The bill doesn't limit it to just the days that the city or the rodeo chooses to have it as non-family nights, nor does it say that there have to be family nights. The bill allows for the expansion to 365 days a year. We are substantially reducing the size of acres. We're now bringing it within city limits. What I believe I'm being asked to vote on is whether I think it is a good public policy for there to be hard liquor sales at a family event that is a rodeo. And for me, I don't think that that's the right approach. Now, I wish I was voting on a different bill. I wish I was voting on a bill that said you couldn't do it at all. The city of Caldwell and the rodeo already have a remedy, and the remedy is, as indicated in debate, that they can use the license of another if they'll pay a fee to use it for that brief period of time. That's not what is being asked. What I believe the bill is asking for is a license to do it. It is my understanding that what happened is that they had to give up their beer and wine license in order to be able to use a catered license. That is, you could not have a beer and wine license in entity A and use a liquor license for entity B for the same event. And so they have given up the beer and wine license so that they could use the cater license. They do want to. I have great confidence. I know what the good senator has said is absolutely true. They do want to comply with the law. And they want to comply with the law by rewriting it. And for me, that's just not a good fit under these circumstances. And since I have to vote on the language in this instance, I'll be unable to support the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate? Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, would the good senator from District 11 yield to a question?
Senator Lodge from District 11, would you yield to a question from the senator from District 6?
I will, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good Senator, just a question. Is there a separate area for where this alcohol would be served, say, from the rest of the population?
Senator Lodge to respond.
Mr. President, good Senator, yes, there is. It's a fenced-in area.
So anybody...
Senator Johnson, would you like to
Mr. President,
inquire
would
further?
the senator yield again?
Senator Lodge,
Yes, I
would you
will.
yield further? Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good Senator, so within this confined area, it does not allow anyone under the age of 21, or can you have family members in there also, please?
Senator Lodge to respond.
Excuse me, Mr. President. You must be over the age of 21 to be in the fenced-in area.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Lodge.
Mr.
Senator
President,
Durst.
Would the Senator from 11 yield to one quick question?
Senator Lodge, would you respond further?
Mr. President, thank you, Mr.
Senator Lodge,
Sorry.
would you respond further?
Sorry.
Mr. President, I will if he will speak a little slower because I have a difficult time understanding him. He goes so fast.
Senator Durst, to state your question
Mr.
slowly.
President, I will speak slower.
Yay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, my question, it kind of came from the line of question, or the statement from Senator from 33. I'm wondering if there has been any increase, if you could tell me if there's been an increase in DUI or traffic accidents as a result of the consumption of hard alcohol in the days surrounding or the days of the Caldwell Night Radio.
Senator Lodge to respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good Senators. I have letters of support from the Chief of Police and the past sheriff who just went out of office in January, and the new sheriff who's been on the rodeo board. They have not had any extra trouble because they monitor it very carefully.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So further debate. Senator Sidaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the good senator from 11 please stand for a question?
Senator Lodge, would you respond further?
Yes, I will, Mr. President.
Senator Sidaway from District 35 to state his question.
Thank you. Good Senator, would you describe to me at the fairgrounds how it works, and as far as the purchase and the consumption of the liquor, are there portals or accesses to purchase liquor that after the person purchases it, he just blends into the rest of the crowd, or are they all in a confined area, and does the consumption have to take place within that confined area?
Senator Lodge to respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is a confined area. It is a sectioned off area. I have not purchased there, so I don't have personal experience, but I have noticed it as I've been around the grounds, and they are confined to that area for the hard alcohol.
And for a follow-up.
Senator Lodge, would you respond further?
Yes, I will.
Senator Sidaway.
Thank you, good Senator. But have you observed that after they have purchased the alcohol, are they able to just leave that premise? They don't have to consume it on the premise?
Senator Lodge.
Mr. President, from my knowledge, they have to be within that fenced-off area for the hard alcohol to be consumed. They cannot leave that area.
Okay.
So they aren't out in the stands.
Okay, thank you.
So further debate. Senator Lakey.
Mr. President, I wondered if the senator from 33 would yield to a question.
Senator Davis, would you yield to a question from the senator from District 12?
No, thank you, though.
So further debate. Hearing none.
Mr. President.
Senator Johnson, for what purpose do you stand?
Mr. President, would the good senator from 11 yield for one more question?
Senator Lodge, would you yield?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I will.
Senator Johnson, to state your question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good Senator, I just had another question on the number of events at this facility. Do you have other events going on during the year, such as big truck racing or motorcycles or anything else like that where you'd be serving alcohol?
Senator Lodge.
Mr. President, good Senator, this license refers only to the days of the Caldwell Night Rodeo, which is the third week in August, for 3 nights. This is not a place where the Caldwell Night Rodeo has other events where they would serve hard alcohol. They do have a beer and wine license. They will ask for that beer and wine license back again, that they might serve at some ropings or other activities that they have. But this is for 6 days only. It's for the event. It is not for the year. They could maybe have asked for a liquor license to spread out over other areas, but they haven't done that. Now, the Stampede in Nampa, a big rodeo there, they are under the auspices of the Idaho Center, which has its own catering facility. And so their liquor license is by the catering company that also covers the Idaho Horse Park and all the other events, which could be the big truck event and concerts or whatever that they have there. This does not happen at the Caldwell Night Rodeo grounds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good Senator.
Further debate. Senator Hagedorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the good senator from 11 further yield to a question?
Senator Lodge, would you yield further?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, good senator. I will.
Senator Hagedorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good senator, I love the Caldwell Night Rodeo, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at the code here and I'm trying to identify where it says that it's only for those specific nights, because the way I'm reading it on page 2, starting about line 42 to 48, it just says the equestrian center, as long as the facility is a bona fide equestrian facility. And so I'm confused with what you just described as to where those limitations are at.
Senator Lodge to respond.
It does say the equestrian facility, and but you have to have the 6,000 seats, and you have to have at least 3 days per year of a professionally sanctioned rodeo. This is already being done for ski resorts and golf courses, but they have one on a whole total year. This is just for this event. This is an event license, not for any other activities that they might have. I'm not sure
Senate will go at ease, subject to call of the chair.
Another city I can't go to. I will get you to pass like it's all right.
But you know, the senator, I don't know if the senator.
Senate will come to order. Before going at ease, the Senate was in the 13th order of business considering Senate Bill 1074, and Senator Lodge was responding to an inquiry. Senator Hagedorn, I'm sorry if you'd stand. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. President, concerning the good senator's question, I would like to hold this bill for a couple days so I can get back with the sponsors and also ABC.
Is that a unanimous consent request to hold the bill for 2 legislative days?
Request. We'll get it cleared up.
Okay.
Mr. President, I don't want to object. Could we go at ease for just another moment, please?
Senate will be at ease, subject to call of the chair.
And Saturday and Sunday are legislative days. So that means you're not holding it until Monday morning. Joel it to a date certain, like Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. That's right. So just, instead of 2 legislative days, just say, ask her to hold it to a date certain next Wednesday or whatever it is.
Do I have to say the date?
Sure, but we'll survive.
Next week?
Yeah.
Is next week okay? Wednesday of next week?
June is fine.
I know you'd like that.
I still love you.
What's that? Yeah. Well, I've got to have time, we were talking about Wednesday, to give us enough time to make sure that ABC is there and these guys travel. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Senate will come to order before going to eat. Senate was in 13th order of business and had under consideration Senate Bill 1074. Senator Lodge.
Thank you, Mr. President. If there isn't a day that goes by that we don't learn something new, then I don't think we're alive. I learned that Saturday and Sunday are legislative days. So I'm going to ask that we hold this bill until next Wednesday, whatever that legislative day is, next Wednesday of next week, okay? A unanimous consent.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Does everybody understand? Is there any objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. And Senate Bill 1074 will be held until Wednesday of next week. Hold its place on the calendar. Senator Winder.
Mr. President, I would ask unanimous consent that all bills in the third reading calendar be reordered, placing Senate bills at the top of the calendar, followed by House bills.
Hearing no objection, is so ordered. Senator Winder.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent Senate advance to the 15th order of business.
Hearing no objection, the Senate will advance the 15th order of business, miscellaneous business, and adjournment. Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a time to make announcements and introductions if there are any left to be made. And we do plan to adjourn until Monday morning.
Senator Lacey.
Mr. President, for an introduction, all by herself up there is my very, very good friend, Susie Matsura. Can we welcome her to the Senate, please?
Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one quick announcement. I'm being told that there will be some proposed amendments in either today or on Monday. So we'll look at either Monday or Tuesday next week for the 14th order of business. And if there are no other announcements, Mr. President, I would move that the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday morning.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion and the second that the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday morning. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Senate will stand adjourned.